Hello students, I am Mrs. Huma Siddiqui, PGT English from Kendriya Vidyalaya, Raisen. Today we are going to deal with the poem Aunt Jennifer's Tigers, which is in 12th class Flamingo book. The poem is written by Adriana Rigg, who is well-known American poet, and she has written mostly feminist poems. She was born in the year 1929 and she lived till 2012. As I told earlier, she was an American activist, poet, teacher, feminist. She fought for women's rights and against subjugation of women. One of the most widely read and influenced poets of the second half of the 20th century is Adriana Rigg, definitely, because her poems deals with the weaker sex and how they are being exploited by the patriarchal society which is around and is still now existing in this world. Still the females are struggling to be at par with male. Still we can see lots and lots of exploitation being done by the male world of the women inside the house, around the society, and in the country, and globally too. She talks about a woman's experience in her married life in this poem. She has tried to explore the inner feeling of a woman who is living under the dominance of man. The poem addresses the constraints of married life. This is the main theme of the poem. It tells us about the constraints, the problems which are there in the married life, which a woman experiences and she cannot share with the male world because she is of course living in a patriarchal society, that is a male dominated society where her words are having no say. So let's begin with the first stanza. Before beginning with the stanza, I would like you all to concentrate on the last word of every verse, every line, because the whole poem is having a rhyme pattern. Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance across her screen, bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear the man beneath the tree. They pace in sleek, chivalric certainty. Now see the rhyme scheme. Screen, green, that is AA, then tree, certainty, BB. So in the first stanza, the rhyme scheme is AA and BB. Now here, the poet is talking about a lady whom she addresses as Aunt Jennifer. The lady is embroidering a piece of cloth. It could be a tablecloth or a wall hanging. The pattern shows tigers who are moving and jumping around all over the fabric. They are bright in color, they are yellow, and because of this bright yellow which the writer has used, they are resembling the actual color which the tigers are having, and it is resembling the stone topaz. The dense green forest background is their home. They are the proud and fearless citizens of the forest. They live in the forest. They are unafraid. They are bravely walking here and there. Here is a contrast between Aunt Jennifer and her tigers. The tigers are fearless, but the lady, Aunt Jennifer, who is embroidering them, she is not at all so. She is afraid of something. The tigers look elegant, shining, and full of grace, but the lady is somewhere dominated by other people. She is like a doormat. She is being subjugated by the husband, which is going to come in the next stanza. Now, coming to the next stanza, Aunt Jennifer's finger fluttering through her wool, find even the ivory needle hard to pull. You can see the ivory needle there on the screen. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. So, in this stanza, Aunt Jennifer's fingers are shivering, they are trembling, she's afraid of. And why she's afraid of? Because of the fear of her husband. She's pursuing her hobby in her free time, but probably she is still afraid of her husband who could scold her. Her fingers are so tired of working endlessly all her life. The needle is also heavy for her to pull out of the embroidering piece. Now here you can see that the needle was made up of ivory, means the of the elephant were being nicely chopped off and were being transmuted into ivory needle. And definitely it means that she belongs to a very well-to-do family. Moreover, ivory needle must be very easy to handle. But then also she was finding it difficult to pull. So the poet here was focusing on the troubles in Aunt Jennifer's life. She was in a marriage where she either physically or mentally was under stress. And because of the stress, her hands shook as she worked on her embroidery. She found it difficult to pull the woolen thread through the fabric. The poet mentioned that a heavy wedding band sits on the aunt's hand. This weight was not just the physical weight put on emotional weight as well. The misery of her marriage, symbolized by the wedding band, weighed Aunt Jennifer down. The word uncle's wedding band, as the band was bought by her husband, it is still with her. The lady is dependent on her husband. She is still burdened by the weight of the ring. She has been living a demanding life due to which she had worn out in her old age. And the last stanza, when aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie, still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and unafraid. Here, in the last and final stanza, the poet imagined what would happen when Aunt Jennifer passed away. The poet said that her terrified hands would still have the mark of the ordeals that she faced and not all which she could master. However, in sharp contrast, the embroidered tigers would continue to move elegantly in their fabric world, proud and fearless. This meant that the trials and tribulations that Aunt Jennifer faced in her lifetime were expressed through the device of the embroidered tigers. These embroidered tigers were all that Aunt Jennifer was unable to be: proud, strong, and fearless. Here, her wish to live a free, fearless life is indicated by her choice of designing the tigers. It shows her innermost desire of being strong, fearless, which was being overpowered by her husband. Probably her ordeal will end upon her death. Her frightened, shaking fingers will be put to rest when she will be no more. But still, even after death, the ring shall remain on her hand. That is, her husband's rule over her is not yet over. Like in our Hindu society, if the wife dies before the husband, then she is decked up in all the jewel. She is decked up with all the jewelry, with the red sari, having all the embellishment as if of a wedded woman. onto her pyre. So in the same way, in Christianity, the ring, which is an important segment of their married life, they exchange the ring, that even after the death of woman will not be removed from her body, because in the afterlife also she had to carry that ring because she was a wedded woman of somebody. So even with the death, that constraints of married life is not over. She has to be in the vicious circle of that married life. After her death, her desire of freedom and fearlessness shall remain alive in these tigers which she has embroidered, right? So, in all, if my dear children, if we see the world into two phases, you can see one part of the world is male and the other part of the world is female, right? And like in 11th class, we did yang and yin, similarly, male and female. And if you look around in your house, in the society, in the country, around the world, you will find that the male are dominating the female. There are very few places in the whole world where females are dominating. There used to be a time when female domination was there in the ancient history, if we look into, but nowadays, and since the medieval ages, it is the world has become a male dominated society. And now with the advent of modern age, the females are struggling. They are voicing their rights. They are fighting for their rights. They are being called as feminist. And the male who practice their supremacy, they are called as male chauvinist. So if we divide the world into two parts, the male dominated society, you will find that the males are independent, they are strong, they do the office work, they are competent, they are termed as rational thinkers, they are active, they are insensitive. Whereas with the female, it is that they are dependent on their male partner, they are weak, they should do household chores, they are incapable of taking decisions, they are very, very emotional, passive, sensitive, and they should guardian the children. So all these things, they result in gender stereotypes. A typical behavior norm is being assigned with male, and a typical behavioral norm is being assigned to the female. And because of this norms, the whole aggression is there between male and female in the modern world. So there are various themes in this poem, Aunt Jennifer's Tiger. The very first theme is gender stereotypes and inequality. The second theme is male domination in society. The third thing is hypocrisy. When you try to pose before the society as if you are a very good husband, but behind the four walls, you keep your wife as a doormat. You treat her even worse than your pet. That is hypocrisy. Social conditioning and patriarchy. The next theme is humiliation of women. Then another theme is bondage versus freedom, that is escapism. All art is by and large, is said that they are actually a movement of escapism. Whenever the person want to escape from the humdrum of life, they find some space in the art form. Then art and life, the hunt and subjugation, and the domestic violence. Now, this is very important question as far as the psychology of Aunt Jennifer is concerned. The inner and outer worlds of Aunt Jennifer. How does she cope? See, the actual world, the outer world, the real world where she was living, her life was transient, it was flawed, it was harsh and cruel. She wanted to escape from it, and she was hopeless of her status in the house. Whereas her inner world, which she poured out, which she tapped in the form of the embroidery, was full of imagination. She has poured imagery into it. It was permanent, ideal, beauty and vitality, catharsis, and aspiring. This is a very important question which is often asked in CBSE: comparison and contrast between aunt and her tiger. So if we talk about Aunt Jennifer, she is bound by the weight of the ring on her finger, that is the social expectation. What a wife has to do as per the demand of the husband, as per the demand of the society, the expectations goes on increasing with every year, and some way somehow she loses her own self identity. This shows constant nervousness. The world is colorless, the world is dull, her hands are fluttering, terrified. She finds the needle hard to pull. The wedding band sits heavily, and she was mastered by the constraints of the married life. She was subjugated by her uncle, she was humiliated, and she was owned by that dreaded man. Now, in the piece of art, there was a type of escapism. Act of escape is hard. She cannot pull the thread, but she tries to escape. She wants to escape through that art. So she has poured her inside heart while creating those tigers, the life which she wanted to aspire, which she wanted to live, but was unable to. In comparison to it, the tiger, they are trapped permanently in an embroidery ring, not afraid of the men, that is the hunters. They are bright topaz colored animal, and they live in the world of green. They are ringed and mastered in zoos and captivity, but when they are in the world of green, nobody can tame them. They are fearless creatures. They are strong, they are ferocious, they are graceful, they are flamboyant and carnivorous. Even the men will become afraid of them if they have tigers in front of them. And they possess sleek, chivalric certainty. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you and keep learning.